All right, hello, welcome back. Today, emphasis and focal point is our main lecture and how that works within the graphic design. And then we will start on your pamphlet design. So you'll be working on a poster design and a pamphlet design. They will be going, you'll kind of be doing them like not hand in hand, but almost the same structure each time. So today is going to be the introduction of it. What do you need to do? And you're going to do some sketches and kind of get how you want to lay things out, and all that kind of information done. Almost exactly like you did with the poster, or you're doing with the poster, but it'll be different information along the way. So with that said, we'll go over emphasis. We know what to do with the research. I will brief you on what the project is, and then we'll go over the template research and thumbnails for this project. And then also, I want to point this out. Sometimes I forget to talk about this. Is there's a clickable link here. If you click on that, you will see what you should register for next. You just kind of click and be like, okay, I've taken GRDS 103 and I've passed. So it means I can take GRDS 104 next. And then so you have to look at the prereqs and then be able to move on and take the other assignment, the other courses within the second semester. Of course, not jumping around. We do first semester, second semester, third semester, fourth semester. Also, if you're listening to this, you don't have to do it all at once. You can separate it out. This is what is called a recommendation, that if you're a full-time student, you should be able to take the five classes, which I believe is an extra, they're general studies, and then for a full-time, I believe it's something like 15 credits per semester. That is the way to do it. Not everybody can do that. That's totally fine. Take what you can when you can and do a better job than trying to rush through these and get them all done as fast as I can. And then you end up with not a lot of good looking stuff. The reason I bring this up too is the graphic design program, or graphic design as a program and as a career, isn't based on your grades necessarily. You need to have passing grades, of course, to pass the courses. But the big one is you will be doing portfolio reviews. And so when you apply for jobs in graphic design, they'll want to see your resume, of course. You went to school, blah, 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 these activities, those activities. Then they're going to want to see your portfolio, and the portfolio is what gets your job. So a portfolio is a gathering of pieces of your work throughout the time that you've been here at MATC that will show like, this is the quality of work that I produce on a regular basis, and the client who's looking to hire you will look at that and be like, yes, you are the person, or no, we want somebody who's a little bit more this way or that way or whatever. So that is how it works. So I just want to give you that quick little update there. So don't rush it and get bad grades. Oh, refresh. Oh, okay. It is working. Just give me a moment. A student's not getting the sound on their side. My sound seems to be working. I'm getting the little speaker that shows so just a moment. Can you hear me now? I assume that means you can hear me now with a little refresh. All right, so I'm going to continue. So that's what we talk about there. Please fill that out. All right, perfect. Now we'll keep going. So make sure you fill that out. Victoria, just go back and listen to that first couple minutes when I repost. It's just about how the graphic design industry works per grading, but it's actually based on a portfolio in which you show your work to get a job. You don't show your grades to get a job. So it's different than a lot of other fields where they want to see high grades. You know, did you pass these courses? Because that shows that you did it. No, for graphic design, it's we want to see what you can do, because there's people who can pass all the courses and do good, but their work isn't up at a level where creatives will be like, yes, that's what we want. They're like, you need to still improve. You've done the work, but you still need to improve. So check that out. Like I said, and you can start over, listen to that first couple minutes when I repost. All right, let's jump in to emphasis and focal point. See, am I all ready to go here? All right, let's switch up. All right, emphasis and focal point. Let's zoom on in and talk about this. All right, this is based off a hierarchy. When you are designing a piece, you as a graphic designer have so much power and psychological power over people in how they view, what they view, and the way they're going to view what you put in front of their face. You are giving them something to look at, and you can guide them through, in this way, emphasis and focal point, to really like look at one thing. And they'll wonder, like, why am I looking at this? How does that work? So we use emphasis and focal point, and then this is triggered into hierarchy. What do we want people to see and when? And that may seem really weird, like, oh, it's just a poster. You know, like I'm using that as a generalization. It's the easiest one to use. It's just a poster or an ad. It's an ad for like a car. I just want to look at the car. Well, no. What are they going to have you look at the car first? Then what do they want you to look at second? Then what do they want you to look at third? We don't want you to just look at the car and leave, but we want to move you around to read all the information without you knowing it. And it's a tricky thing. And so one of those ways we do that is with emphasis. What is most important? What do we want to see? When do we need to see it? How do we want to see it? It gives the prominence. And usually for this, the emphasis is, you know, like, I want you to view this first and foremost. And we can do it through so many different ways. This is where we're starting to gather those design elements that we like to talk about. These guys, like that we've already gone through. How do I arrange these elements? How do I push these elements around on the page that I want, that are purposely designed in, to show where the emphasis in this piece is? I really want the takeaway to be. That's a big like buzzword. What's the takeaway? Oh, what's the takeaway? I'm going to arrange these, and it's going to be like arrows and things going, and it's pointing at this, and then like that's the takeaway. I want you to see this first. It's most important. But I also want you to read everything else. So that works with focal point and working with things. So focal point, we can use geometric, precise, and regular shapes like circles. You know, a focal point is the specific area or element within a composition that attracts the most attention. So we're going to see that there's some obvious ones over here, but you can do it in a very tricky ways as also. Like, you can be very subtle and not have people realize that like you're guiding their eye to look at this one specific part of the design. Like it says, a well-defined focal point helps organize the visual hierarchy of the composition. Again, it's never a one-off when we do these pieces. It's like sometimes it feels like it. If you're going to design like a billboard, you got to think, I'm driving 60 miles an hour. I have to look up at the billboard. I have 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3 seconds. You know, that you can take your eyes off the road. You can look at that billboard and get all the information you're needed. So in that case, what's the focal point? What do we need to see? You know, what do they need to see first? You can't have a lot of text on a billboard, right? You need to, if you have a lot of text and somebody starts reading, oh, this is too much text, and they got in a car crash. Or they just ignore it because the hierarchy isn't there. So we lessen the information, we make it easier to read, and we bring it down to like, I want 2 takeaways from a billboard. A poster may have 3 or 4. So like the poster you're working on for for the music festival is going to have, it has five areas of information. And you need to figure out what the focal point is. Is it the name? You know, is it the headliners? It's definitely not the info box. So for me, it would be probably like the logo, the date, and the headliners are probably the three most important. And then you divvy from there, and then information and images. You know, like the images are just, but so we figure that out. They're not of all the same importance. And so we need to know how to do this emphasis and how to figure out the focal point. We just don't make everything the exact same size, because that ends up just talking in a monotone voice, where we need, the parts where we yell at them. Contrast is used. Contrasting elements like color, size, texture helps create that emphasis. It makes things different. If we have a black and white piece and you put in some color, that's the emphasis. That's the focal point right there. That's what changes the way we look at it. It may seem simple, but it works so well. And we're doing it on purpose, which is, again, that part that I love. Like, if I do this and this, I know people are going to, view it like this. And then, but they don't know why. And I love that part. Isolation is good to use. Isolation. I have like all this stuff happening on, but then I have this one area where it's like really keyed in to one element, and it's alone. Like all this stuff is like surrounding it, but it's alone in there. Like, say I have a ton of lines and I have one shape. We're gonna be like, oh, that shape is like kind of isolated among the lines, which are busy, and then that helps us. Of course, placement. This gets tricky because there are so many cool ones where we can adjust the placement. The reason I call it tricky is because within our Western culture, we read from top down, left to right. So we start up here and then we go across. But then that's also, if there's columns, we read one and then we read the other. We start at the top and read down. So it's one of those things like placement, but you can still do really awesome stuff and maybe have like the focal point at the bottom instead, and then you have some info up here. But it seems reversed, but you can do stuff like that. It doesn't always go by the same rules for placement of like, oh, the most important thing always needs to be at the top. No, it doesn't. You can put it on the side. Like, you can do some really rad designs where the title is on the side like this, and then you have information. It just looks different. But again, sometimes that looking different is the key to a design, because it makes it more interesting. When we're talking about balance in design, the balance is the more kind of like unbalanced it is, the more interesting the design, the more people will look at it, the more they'll remember about it. So that's all that goes down to it. And none of this talks about, the emotional attachment people should get when looking at a piece, and that drives remembering even more. If you can, get, pluck their heartstrings, whatever the saying is called, in a design, they'll remember that even more. Color is used. Color and intensity is used, of course. Bright colors, like I said earlier, bright colors will draw the eye. We've got a great example of that coming up in a little bit. Size and scale. What's big, what's small? Of course, that's an obvious one. If I have a big one word and a small little word, I'm going to start at one big word and go to the little one. And some of this, this one and this one can bleed into the assignment that we're going to do today, the project on emphasis and focal point. So, and then repetition and pattern. I love using pattern when you can. And when you have a break in a pattern or a break in repetition, you stop. You're like, oh, something's changed. Why did that change? I wonder, I should look there. Like you could have a whole entire pattern. I've seen this done, like cool artwork and cool stuff like that. designs where it's like a complete pattern, and then you set off what's called an anomaly, one difference in that entire pattern that then you go to, your eye goes to, and you're like, oh, what is that? And why is it different? You start kind of questioning it, and you learn more and more about it. So it's a great way, that works. So let's check out some emphasis and focal point images. This one is so great. This one is everything we've been talking about. What are we selling? We're selling a blazer. How do we know that? Well, because it says Rider Blazer, which is very cool. But we have blue, right? So we learned about blue, light blue. It's a cool color. Then we put a warm color on top of it in a circle, which just makes our eyes want to go to the what? Target. Like think of it like a target. Then we read this. So we look at that. We're looking at her. We're looking at what she's wearing. She's got her hand in a certain way. She's touching the blazer. And we go from Rider and we follow this line down to Blazer and then Zer, which is a cool like crossover. It's a little funky. It's got something cool, cool idea going on there. And then the final stuff is at Nordstrom. Our employees have a personal financial and blah, 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 blah. And it's all written in single word, very different. It's got a lot of hyphens. It's all single word. Very thought about. But when you look at this, and then whenever I put this up and whenever I think about this is what I think about. This is the emphasis and focal point right here. Rider, this blazer. That's what we need to know about. Like I come away knowing that whenever I see this piece or whenever I see now a blue piece with the orange dot, I think about this piece because I've been using this as an example for a while. Next up, come on. I'm trying to make my image smaller, but still have my control bar. All right, that's what I want. Here's another great one. All right, it's very similar, almost exactly the same to this Rider one. What do we have? We have a model, foot. This guy, foot, but we did a drawing around him, and it's much more subdued. He, very monotone in color, very nice. But then you have the contrast of, kind of like really nice, really, really clean, clear, whatever. And then it's all hand drawn around him. One, that's a contrast in drawing new attention. So then where's the emphasis and focal point? Well, of course, we're starting here and we're looking at all of this. Boom, boom, boom. These lines right here, those small, could actually just be arrows, right? They're pointing at arrows, 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 pointing it to look at what is happening surrounding this person. And we start to dig in, and you can look here and the case of Mercy's tomorrow. You just start reading this. The young man from Atlanta, one-armed man, dividing the state. You just start reading it, and you're like, it's interesting. Must be, the world of foot. And this is kind of like the second. So emphasis is all the way up here, and then we come around to here, and then we go through, and we read all the other information. But we get lost, and we get captured here, and we start to think, and we think, oh yeah, I know about that one. I remember that one. And then so this is the emphasis. This is what's tugging at our heartstrings. We're remembering things and being like, oh yeah, totally makes sense. That's so cool. And then we go down and like, okay, what is this? May 6, 2021, 2011. This happened, that happened, the other one. And that's how we come across, and we're creating a focal point. If all of this stuff, if this was just at the top, we just had like a portrait of him and then just kind of ran some information, you wouldn't read this at all. You'd gloss over and be like, yeah, I'm done with this. Whatever, like it's not interesting. It's not holding my attention. I'm done with this. So that's a really great one. How simple do you want to get with it? What do they want you to know right here? Click. The brand, the click. They got some orange, but what do they want you to know? They've got a grayed out image, blacked out, you can still see it, something's happening, but they want you to build something, like, so this is it, real big, build something. How great. And that's sometimes all you need. Then there's enough other information, like, so this is from a website. So there's the company is here. Great. Got the company, and I know I can look at all these different things, and I have time for that, right? I have time for that. But there's some build something. All right. Yes. I'm liking that. And I actually do like, because I start at the top and I don't necessarily want to just start clicking like boom, 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 boom. But they have a double work and then CR work. But if I look at this build something, I'm like, yeah, build something. And I kind of drift, and I drift over here. It's like CR work. Well, I'm going to click there instead of going back up here. So it guides us in. I know this is a website, of course, standard website. Come down to here. And then instead of having to go back up, I just stop right here. And it's got a nice, this little orange line that is different. Also, the anomaly pointing up at that. So you can be really simple with designs as well. I know, beginning graphic designers, it is very hard to be simple. And it's actually very hard to be simple. There's a style called minimalist. There's a style called flat design. There's a style called Swiss design. And it's all very simple. And the odd part is it's actually harder to design simple than it is to design like crazy. Like this is pretty simple, but like all this stuff and like where you can have theories about why you did what and where. But if you like come up and you're like, I want it just to be like bold type in the middle of the page, people are like, oh, really? Just that? And then it has to be like perfect. There can't be anything wrong. All right. Love this piece too. The focal point, the heart lips, like so great, so well done. Zoomed in focal point. We can't miss. You can't not see both the heart and the lips. I think it's so well done. And it's for theater, it's for a play, it's in a different language, because you know what? Graphic design goes across all languages, so it doesn't matter. That's why we show stuff from different countries when we're doing this. It's not all the same. They do just as great work. It's visual communication across the world. But we have this. This is what we come in for. And we think about that. It's a heart and it's a lips. And we, no matter who we are, we think like, oh, we might think of some romanticism in with this. But it gets us thinking, even before we read about it, even before we read that it's, the play is from here, and this is femmes, like before we get into that, you stall on this for a while. This is the emphasis, and we start to think emotionally about this. And then after all that, we're like, oh, wait, okay. You almost said clear your mind. And then you're like, oh, yeah, femmes, And then the wording, bigger to smaller to smaller to smallest. Why? It's the way we want the person to read it. We want them. This is the last thing they need to read is this stuff right there. That little line. And then, we come down. There's information right there. I'm not left without knowing the information. I think that's the phone number. I think 01 is the phone number set up. But yeah, that's how this reads. But again, that focal point that's really drawing the eye in, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we go around. So loving that. And last but not least, this one is so funny. I think it's funny because I think I've watched this movie and I didn't know what it was like. Everybody was so like amazed by it. And I was like, man, it's all right. All right. Well, this one gets a lot of drawing. Focal point. What are we looking at? Well, we have an arrow here and an arrow here, right? 2 arrows pointing to this. This is the main figure from the movie, because this movie is like sort of only revolves in one person. And this is, what is this like? I don't know the proper terms, and I'm not big on movies. Like, antagonist, protagonist, like whatever, like this is the evil rock. And then this is the guy who gets hurt by it. So we start out, we're looking at emphasis. Where does the emphasis go? One, we have 2 arrows. Second, we're dealing with light. We have dark, and this dark thing hanging out in the brightest part of the page. Dark on white. Contrast, creating emphasis right there. Now the other one is we have hidden in here is the proverbial hourglass. Remember those hourglasses? Because he's only got so much time, or like there's the hourglass, and then it's flowing down. So this is also the shape of an hourglass, and it's emphasizing that whole 127 hours with James Franco. Every second counts. So it's all pretty great. It does lead us in. So we, a triumph, true story. All right, great. Then we go down, then we understand, and we get through this, and we drop down to here. This is kind of the second biggest part. It might be the biggest part. I don't know. If you were like compositionally, I would say this is a little bit bigger, but this is getting pointed to far more, so it can be a little bit smaller to help with that. And then we know the name of the movie, the title, and then all this other jibber jabber. So that's how, this is a crazy, X, that's the other one I like to do. X marks the spot. What do we need to know about? Right there. It's all right there for us. So there you go. There's an overview of emphasis and focal point, using that within a design to help people know what they should be looking at. It's one of the tools in your art box to use when you're designing for designing anything. So cool. All right, let's check out the assignment. Come on. Oh, this doesn't always pop up my lower things. All right. You know what to do. Please get the book cover, movie poster, and album cover correct, everybody. Some people are picking whatever they want to do. It's the same 3 each time. The reason it helps, there's a wide range of stuff right there. All right. So this one's confusing. Please listen carefully. So for the first one, using typography and these words, hierarchy, typography, and alignment. When we talk and we say a word like hierarchy, we say it in a way, hierarchy, that we emphasize a certain part of the word, typography, alignment. And I want you to to type out using whatever fonts and have some fun, hierarchy, typography, and alignment in a way that you're writing it that we would say it. I use emphasis because I didn't want to pre-write any of these and give you guys any clues, excuse me. So I did that. Emphasis. So I chose it as lowest point, biggest point, second point. This is bold, this isn't bold. And so I feel like when we say the word, we say emphasis. The fa to me is biggest. So I want you to type out hierarchy, typography, and alignment, and have some fun and show us how you think we would say it. Phonetics, I believe it's called, right? So that's the first part. The second part is I want you to draw the eye from the big dot to the little dot, from the big dot to the little dot, and from the big dot to the little dot. So emphasizing one area over another, but not in a way that we only go here, but we also go here. And I want 3 unique compositions. I did this one. This is that road, the proverbial road's coming in. It starts thick and it goes to thin. Our eye just naturally wants to, maybe follow and then goes off into the horizon. And so that was my idea. There's a lot of different things where I want you, you can do creatively to draw the eye from this dot to this dot. And you can fill this whole thing in and be crazy and know that like if I do this and add some elements, I can get people to look over here as well. But I want to look here first, here second. I want you to look here first, here second, here first, here second. I know these are getting a little bit more tricky, a little bit harder as we move into the principles of the design, but there you go. That's what I want you to do and how I want you to take care of that. So again, any questions, please use that midweek review. I check it. If you post there, you can post it before you turn it in. Don't post it Tuesday night expecting me to check it before you turn it in Tuesday at midnight. But if you do it well in advance, I'm going to check it. We have a little back and forth. You can come up with some beautiful designs with my help. Who wouldn't want to just like do perfect assignments across the board no matter what? Especially when I'm willing to work on it with you. All right. Last but not least, Project B, Part 1. All right. A little bit of reference. So you're going to be making a 4-page pamphlet. To break it down, it is a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half. So you have a cover, 2 inside pages, and a back cover. Fairly easy. It's easy to do, easy to set up. You've already set up a InDesign document that you will be designing in. This will be taking place in InDesign, and you know how to place images, crop images. You've been doing that now since the beginning of the class. So what I want you to do is just like the poster, I want you to fill out the information and do some thumbnail sketches. This is all about a graphic designer of your choice. Discover a graphic designer that you would like to work on. It can be any graphic designer from anywhere in the world in any time period. I say that because there's so many famous graphic designers out there. So you can be old, new, from here, from China, from Mexico, wherever you want. Find one. How do I find one? Google it. Google top designers. Google historic designers. Just Google it and start looking and look at the imagery. And when you find one that like piques your interest, go with that. So what you're going to need, you're going to need together the graphic designer. You need their proper name, and make sure you spell it right if it's weird, and a photo of them. All right? Kind of like 2 for 1 right there. Graphic designer name and photo. A minimum of 5 examples of their work, and make sure you're getting high-res images. When we do that image search, I don't know why I picked like the one I can't spell. When we go to images and we want to look at images of this guy's work, make sure you're going to tools, size, and large. And then you can start picking out his stuff, and it should be pretty accurate, pretty clean for you to use, okay? And usually every designer's got websites, and they're going to have high-res work on their websites as well. So 5, a minimum. You may want to do more because it might actually be easier the more you have. I want 2 paragraphs about the graphic designer. If I go back to all, there's so much. You can go here, probably hit an about. You can go to Wikipedia. I'll let you use Wikipedia because we want, some information. You do like who he is and design career. Oh, I got in trouble at some web conference in 2017, whatever. All right. So a minimum, 2 paragraphs about the graphic designer, and then the site where you got the written information. If you got it from more than one place, it's just the sites. the information that lets us know that you pulled that information from this specific place. It's just natural thing. Now, draw 3 thumbnail sketches for your pamphlet. The final size of the pamphlet will be 11 inches wide, 8.5 inches tall, folded in half, top to bottom. So that means that fold runs from the top to the bottom. So it's folded in half vertically. Make sure your sketches are approximate to those proportions. And these are just quick sketches. So here's the pamphlet layout again, just so you get the idea that it's a little bit reversed. The front cover is on the right side, the back cover is on the left side, which seems counterintuitive for a while, and then it'll just become second nature. And then the inside page is page 1 and page 2. Again, sketches, just sketch. I went over this when we were talking about just doing it to do it. Get it close, you know, like, again, don't draw this and be like, that's perfect. We know that it's a little bit more rectangular. And then we'll split that in half. All right. You know, don't draw, and it's not this either. Right? That's wrong. Wrong. You can get it. Just, you can, if you're drawing a piece of paper, take this. Here's those clues that you do. All the fun things you can figure out to do. And you know, is use your computer screen as a light box. What does that mean? You can put this up on your screen, make it smaller. Oh, I can't go any smaller. Oh, that's funny. You can make it smaller and then put a piece of paper on top of that and trace that real quick. You know, oh, I can make it smaller by doing this. Just so it's a comfortable size. And then I can just take a piece of paper, put it on there and trace it. And I have my approximate correct size for when I build it. And then again, just like with the poster, you have a certain amount of elements that are required to be placed in, and you just go about it. So I'm going to have 2. And so the front cover, like what if I do, you know, first name and then last name, and then they just a big, you know, picture. Let's even do like a picture within a picture. And then maybe, you know, in the background is the design. And then, so what I want to do actually then in the back is going to be like this pattern that is from the front. It's going to go on the back. And then this is going to have a block. And all this is going to be erased out. And then here I'll put my site. And then for the front, and then I got to think, okay, we go from page 1 to page 2, and maybe, you know, I'll put another picture of the person, and then like, maybe that's their name again. And then I want, you know, let's see, I want to do kind of a grid, and everything's going to be like in squares. And then the paragraphs of information will go in between. Or I can do another one, you know, like, and you can do anything you want. Like, what if I want all the images to be on one page. Like, here's all the text. I'll still have an image here, the name, and then this page is like broken out and this has all the 5 images, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that I know, because I've already searched them, that I could fit those all on the one page. And so, you know, you start playing around and like, oh, I want a different cover. On my cover, instead of like, you know, I'm going to do the name and I'm going to run the name like this way, you know, real big. But I'm not going to put, I'm going to put on the cover, I'm going to have an artwork, and then I'm going to do the portrait in the middle. So that's all you're doing. You're talking this through, you're drawing little sketches, you're drawing little drawings, and you see how quick this is. And then you can write it out, you know, then you separate it out, and you'd be like, these two go together, okay? And then this is pattern background. You type this out, pattern background, you know, portrait on cover, big name, blah, and then you have the information there. And then so that's what you need to do for the sketches. 3 sketches, all the pages. So it's not just one set. It is, you know, you do everything. This is one, and then I do another set and another set and another set. So that is the assignment for that. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? All right, great. Yeah, well, thank you very much. You know I'm around, how to get a hold of me if you do have questions, comments, or concerns. Yeah. And then if I don't talk to you on the discussion boards, I'll talk to you on Tuesday. We'll move on to part 2 of everything and learn about more principles of design. Cool. Thank you very much. Talk to you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.